Well, I'm excited about this one, and I expect a lot of you guys are out there because it's something I'm relatively famous for, playing this system in numerous Blitz games over a decade or two. So if you see my YouTube channel, then you'll be aware of this opening, the Hillbilly attack. Whoa, get in there, Billy! Hillbilly, of course, means an uncouth person who lives up in the mountains and probably brews his own moonshine on a regular basis. Yeah, I could see myself doing that. And this attack is rather uncouth, rather direct, and very interesting, I feel. Now, there may be some lines here where, yeah, I mean, of course, black is equal in a couple of lines, but it's got great surprise value, this, and it really is a very fun way to meet the Caro-Kann with c6. And it will take your opponent by major surprise. No doubt about that. I've had a lot of success with this. I find it really fun. And the move we're suggesting is bishop c4. And this move already takes aim at f7, and the idea is to keep that pressure against that pawn for as long as possible. And this is it looks like a beginner's move because of d5, of course, but it's got a lot of bite to it, this move, and it's a pure sacrifice that Magnus Carlsen has played a couple of times, and it's a load of fun. So obviously d5 is the move that black will play, being a Caro-Kann defense player. I mean, if you go c6, you're going to follow up d5. And when I play this online, most people even pre-move this move because it's something you can do against every single white reply. And then our idea is to play bishop b3. And again, look at the model game at the start of this course to have a little bit of an insight into what we're trying to do. And we don't obviously want to take on d5. That would really free up the position. The main idea and the main line, which we'll come to a little bit later on, is now black accepting the sacrifice, and we swing in with queen to h5. And this active queen is the Hillbilly blunt attack, where the queen often comes to h4 and keeps the pressure up, and we go knight c3, f3, and try to develop with speed, like a good black Medina gambit. Certainly not what a Caro-Kann player wants to face. But before we get to that one, which is considered the main line, let's just have a look at what else black can play in this position. Now, black might be so surprised by this he doesn't want to walk into our theory, but I would like to mention that the other options that black has in this position are certainly not worrying. I mean, maybe a couple of lines where black is equal, but we're going to get still very fun and free positions in most of them. Now, the strange thing about this idea is you're not going to find anything on it. You're really not. And this hasn't been featured in... I can't remember it being featured in any work on the Caro-Kann. Any books, for example, Daniel Fernandez's excellent The Modernized Caro-Kann, he didn't mention this move. My good friend Jovanka Huska's book on the Caro-Kann, she's an expert on the Caro-Kann, she didn't mention this move. Cyrus Lakdawala, Repertoire for Caro for Every Man, didn't mention this one. It's fresh, it's new, even now, even after I've been playing it for so long, people just ignore it. Because they don't treat it seriously enough, and it does deserve to be treated with some respect. You know, it's got that bishop can come to life. That's the problem. That bishop can be really strong in a lot of positions. Now here, before we move on to the main line, d takes e4, the only way to refute a gambit is, of course, to accept it. Let's have a look at the other options that can be played here. So let's start with black saying, okay, I'm going to take over the center with the move e5. I'm going to try and prove that your gambit idea in this position is, maybe I don't need to take it. I can control the center. And this is quite an ambitious move. And this comes with risk to black as well, because it's ambitious because you're not keeping a good hold on d5. Yes, you take over the center, but it is our move, and the move we're going to recommend is something that I haven't really looked at before, but it is d4. This is a very aggressive counter strike. We're trying to prove that our bishop here is going to give us an advantage when things open up. Now, I think knight f3 is also a good move as well, but I like this d4 move, challenging black immediately and refusing black to dominate the center. And this is a nice sort of new idea. And already these kind of positions, I mean, they're hardly ever been played. They've never been played at high level or move free, which is fun, right? And now what does black do? Well, the captures in the center are the most logical, right? But first of all, if he keeps trying to contain the position with knight to f6, trying to look after the center, well, now we should force things. And I think we should now bring out our knight and get ready to force things in the center. This move is a nice developing move. And we're basically hoping for an exchange on e4 and bringing our queen to our hillbilly square anyway. Now, there are, of course, other options here, but the other options mean that our bishop might be trapped behind that pawn on d5. And one thing to bear in mind is when black gets this pawn structure, you can often go c3 and bring the bishop around to c2. But, the hillbilly, we want to keep things fluid. So I really like this knight c3 move. Developing, bringing a piece into the middle, and unique position already. Now we're threatening to take on e5. Which should be very nice for us, because then knight takes e5. Let's just put a move on the board. Our point of this move is that when we do take here, after this one, of course, we take here, and we've got ideas like bishop f7 or stuff like this is going to be working very well for us. So we do have a point to this. We are creating a threat, and that means that black really should take on e4. Taking on d4. It kind of helps us. We bring our queen in. Our queen has a useful check, and that pressure there is good. So again, this is all new stuff. So we're not going to spend hours and hours on lines that you're probably not going to get. But let's look at a couple of things. And this move looks most logical to me, keeping the option here of not allowing us to swap off queens on our own terms. And now actually we can even just take here, and I know the queens come off, but don't be afraid of that. And you can see that the point of the hillbilly is often this bishop, right? And this bishop is good. The queens should be exchanged, so now black's doing it on better terms here. Let's take with the knight. We don't want to move our king, and this I think favors white with the idea of our knight coming around, and we got this little discombobulator e6, and we're actually going for a positional edge here. We don't need to go absolutely crazy in all lines. Let's have a look. Knight g4, and now that our pawn is attacked, well, we're going to play f4, and our knight does a good job of controlling those squares. So we're threatening to play just h3, and then this pawn on e4 is very weak. So something like pawn takes, knight takes here, knight d7, attacking that pawn, and bishop f4. And with h3 to come, we've got a very active and nice situation here. That knight on g4 is going to be pushed away. Bishop here, fantastic, and we're slightly better here. Black's pieces can't find good squares. So bishop b3, if e5, this d4 move is a nice way to try. And I think knight f6 is quite unlikely. I don't think I've ever faced that move, but we can just develop the knight c3. Let's look at the captures in the center now. So we mentioned this one before. And here, I think actually just a simple queen takes is nice. And we are better here because we got easy, free development. And we're about 5 tempo up in the Scandinavian, even though we've only played 5 moves. So probably not 5, little exaggeration. But we're a lot of tempo up. And we got knight here, the bishop coming out, castle's queen side, and pressure against d5. And this is already just better for us. For example, we're threatening to win that pawn, and if this one happens, well, we can take on s7, as we've seen, this little tactic which works well for us, winning the queen. Okay, king e7 is playable, but let's not even go there. So e takes d4, just queen takes. We don't always have to go crazy. And what about d takes e4? Well, this is one of the ideas with us playing this way. And now queen h5, and this is the Hillbilly attack in action. This is one of our, it's like playing like a beginner, right? And but with some in a more in a better way. We're not going for scholar's mate. Our queen is nice over there. G6 can't be played, and this is quite nasty. It's actually a bit annoying to stop. You have to play after queen h5. You have to defend that one. So queen f6 is a good move as any. And now I really like the move that was played by my good friend Bjorn Torfinson versus Pettersson, Selfos 2019. And that is just we've got a number of moves here, but we're playing the Hillbilly to have a lot of fun and develop. Taking here is fine, but I like this move, knight c3. Well, Torfinson played queen takes e5, going for that position, but this is much more in the spirit of the Hillbilly. Keep developing. For example, this is already a new position, and if this is pinned, well, I think we take with a pawn on that square. And after something like this, well, we might now have to exchange queens, but this is okay because with knight e2, we got the bishop pair, and our dark square bishop has a very nice home on d6, even though our pawns are a little bit damaged. This is very nice, actually. Even with knight d4 and e6 coming, we still retain a lot of pressure here. Do remember, this Hillbilly, it's obviously not going to refute the Caro-Kann, but we're looking for rich, interesting gambit positions. And, in this particular variation, you get exactly that. And it's all new. So knight c3. What about queen f5? Well, again, we don't have to fear the exchange of queens. And now, after this one, I actually like knight e2 with the point, knight g3. Don't forget this maneuver. And now, we might as well throw in h4, h5. We take this one back with better development. Again, our bishop is nice. We've got one more piece to get in the game. And we keep the initiative rolling. So I think the next idea that black can play, probably the most obvious, is taking on d4. But this is actually a mistake. Because suddenly, after knight takes e4, black's actually in trouble. For example, queen e7. Other moves I do look at in the move trader, but I'm not going to cover everything here because it's so unlikely you're going to get it. But you can test them out. I mean, other moves, the queen is generally coming to e2 when we're threatening knight d6. But here, look at this move, king f1. It's an amazing move. I mean, for example, let's just say queen g6. This one, queen e2, is very nice. We're getting great development, great gambit position. We're threatening a check, for example, just so you know generally. But this is a lovely move to play, king f1. All novelties, this, all new ideas, everything absolutely fresh. And the point is this, well, let's have a look. Get to the position. Black can't really take that knight because obviously we just take on f7, check, and take on f8. So black has to do something else. And our main idea now is bishop g5. I mean, what a move to play, king f1. Bishop g5 and like rook e1, right? And all of our pieces, the Hillbilly is laughing in the face of black's position. So let's have a look. Something like knight f6. And now, well, we could take that one off and let's throw the pieces in. And with the rook coming to e1, serious initiative going on here, as I'm sure you can see already. Black's in trouble. So this is just a nice way of, black trying to gain the initiative with the move e5. But after d4, black is not gaining initiative. Black is on the back foot. And a very nice line, if you take here, move the queen in, and then after queen f6, which has been played, keep the initiative with knight c3. So let's go back to other options here. Now e6 is the most popular move by quite some margin if black's not going to take on e4. So it's a serious consideration, and it's actually even been played by Wesley So in a bullet game. So it makes some sense. Now, I've tried a lot of moves here in this position, but we're going to go with e5. Now, The problem from black's point of view with this move is his bishop does become bad, and we're going to now sort of aim for a French defense kind of structure generally. So we're wanting to play like e5, d4, c3, and I've tried even really giving the pawn up here with this one, but this one we don't have the queen coming over here, and we have to now play something like f3, which is very interesting to experiment with, where you still get this black Mardima idea when black is committed to these two bad moves. So this is interesting, but for this course we're going to suggest just e5. We don't always need to gambit, and like I mentioned, the idea is to get a nice advanced French with c3 or d4 in some move order. So let's just say black plays c5, which I think is extremely logical, and now c3, and with d4 coming on, we're going back in those French defense lines that we've seen, right? But black doesn't want to play the French defense because he would have done that on move 1, right? So this is all okay. Now maybe the best move here, and again we're playing a gambit course, so we're going to have to be willing to gambit, is queen g5. This is the computer choice, and this means we have to do a pure gambit, and we're going to go knight to f3. We don't want to lose the pawn on e5. This is our main pawn. And now queen takes here, rook g1, queen here, and now we continue with d4. And the computer will say that black's better here. I'll be totally honest. When you're playing, the Hillbilly is probably our most, the one, if black plays perfectly, the computer doesn't entirely agree with it. But in practical settings, and let's not forget that word before you all complain, if you look at the top players nowadays, they all play lines like this. Look at Dubov, especially the new Tao. This is fun, practically very dangerous of black. A lot of Dubov's ideas, they're like much worse than this, -1 or 2, but he plays them all the time because he realizes that at top level it's not just about following that computer. And this is one case where white certainly has great compensation. We're always going to have the play along here. We've got a strong center. We've got more development. We've got ideas of rook g3 to hassle that queen. And the computer generally, if you try playing out some moves on a strong computer here, it actually changes its mind a bit. And it realizes that white does have good compensation. So, I mean, let's play some moves. Another idea is something coming to g5. So h6 is one of the main ideas. If we don't do this, let's have a look at knight e7. What can be more sensible than black trying to now get a knight to a good square? Well, rook g3, very useful move to play. And now queen h5 makes a lot of sense because he wants to have the option of exchanging queens. If queen f5 here, I like knight to c3, controlling this square, and all of a sudden we're actually threatening to win the queen with knight to h4. And this certainly gives us decent compensation. Black has to try to give that queen an escape square, but now so often a key thing to remember when you're going for these lines is to get that bishop to c2. The bishop is dead on b3, and this is true as soon as black plays e6. You should be thinking, okay, well, now that black's played e6, my bishop is really hitting a brick wall. So later on, at some point, you really need to get it to c2, which is a fantastic diagonal. So e5, and again, our idea is d4, c3, c3 or d4. So if we get that in, we should be happy, because also then our bishop comes back to this diagonal. So queen g5, the only critical move. And now we're going for this pawn sack line. And let's say this knight e7, rook g3, if queen f5, well, again, even c3 here is interesting, but I do like this developing move. And the point being, we're threatening to win the queen. So after this one, our knight now comes to e2. And I like this little maneuver. Our knight is coming around to the king side. And after something, let's say, like queen h7, you might think, well, why queen h7? The point is, that queen is in a lot of danger. It's going to have to go there anyway. Now c3. And the point now, you hopefully see the knight come here. But we're getting our bishop to c2. And after something like bishop c2, we have a lot of compensation. This knight is going to come to g3 when we move the rook, and we've got some cramping moves over here. Maybe the knight coming here. Look at the queen. Unique, exciting, fresh position. I can just see Richard report and players like this playing this kind of line, you have to be a bit of a maverick to dive into this, but this is a gambit course. So have a little bit of faith. It's all new analysis, this. Again, no one's really done anything on the Hillbilly in any depth before. And this is the most depth I've ever looked at it for this course, me and Richard. So Queen H5, I think, makes more sense in actual fact. And now we could, of course, grab a draw here if Black wants to come back down. But that's not why we play this. And maybe we can just repeat, because actually we quite like... We want to try to get that queen to go there, so we've got this tempo. And now, if we want to play for a win, c3. And c4 also interesting, but I'm just going to show you how this compensation lasts. Okay, Black gets his knight there, but we're going to bring back, and now with the bishop coming here, you might think Black's absolutely fine. Black is okay, don't get me wrong, but what is our general idea? Bishop c2, get that bishop there, and again, you've got to think about these guys. There's no way we can immediately cause that queen trouble, but I really like the maneuver in this situation of bringing this knight around to g3. So my plan here, if I was playing, is bishop c2, nice diagonal, and then I start this knight d2, knight f1, and I go there to try and get rid of this knight, and I've got these lovely diagonal open line on the king side. And again, it's a little bit of a leap of faith. You're playing the Hillbilly. What you know, have some fun. Chess is about fun, and you know, I still play this regularly. I believe in it, and you know, it's so much fun to play these lines. So this queen g5, we actually see Black has this option of playing queen g5 in a lot of lines, but we're not worried about giving this pawn up. I mean, this is the Hillbilly. I mean, stop worrying. So e6. Just remember against this, bishop comes to c2, and you want to try to get your pawns to e5 and d4. Now, knight to f6 is actually a move which I faced a lot, and the prodigy Nihal Sarin, who people are tipped as a future world champions, even played this. Again, these are blitz games to talk about because we don't often see these openings occurring in tournament. I don't know why. Hopefully we'll see more. But I think this is actually just a slight mistake, because when we go e5, knight d7, we can simply now play d4 and c3, which is improving on those last lines. And you can leave it there if you want to, with a nice position. But also, just to keep things a little bit unique, there's a decent case for f4 here. Just want to show you something different. And our idea is going to be to go knight f3, castles, and then use these guys. Let's just put some moves on the board. Knight c5, knight f3. If e6 is played, the bishop becomes bad. So let's say Black plays a good positional move. And now we can have the exchange here. And we're going to get d4 in. And we're getting these nice ideas on the king side with our pawns. So this is just another unique way you can play the position with f4. But d4 is also, I would say, advantageous to white with a good French defense. You don't really want the knight on d7 in the French. It sometimes happens in the Tarish French, but here it's not a good square. You kind of want it to come to f5 later. This is not a good square for the knight. So even though knight f6 has been played, it's not as good as, for example, e6, because in these e6 lines we can see that this knight has a better route. So Blacks can get confused very quickly. And maybe the last thing we look at is g6. Just basically saying, okay, well, I'm going to gnaw what you're doing. And again, these lines that I'm suggesting here, they're really untested, and you can experiment in your own ways. I mean, I used to play knight c3 always here, and h4 is something you can experiment with. But I think actually for this course, again, I just want to show you as many ways you can play when Black doesn't play critical. I quite like knight to f3. So we can castle quickly, and we're going for now a kind of Budapest gambit. The point being, after this one, we go knight g5. And it's not even a gambit, because we're going to regain that pawn straight away, and we've got our bishop. Again, the Hillbilly is laughing. So I like knight to f3, and I think Black shouldn't probably take here. Let's say bishop g7. If bishop g4 is ever played, well, we'll come to that in a minute. Let's say bishop g7, and now we castle. So this is one of the reasons we got our knight out quickly. And now if bishop g4 here, Well, I think just h3, and we have this pressure against this one, so e6. And as soon as e6 is played, I think the thing to bear in mind is the bishop no longer is going to get through there. So I like bringing this bishop back to c2 with d4 to come, and this gives us, I think, a very pleasant position again. I mean, these kind of structures do resemble other openings, but totally new positions as well. Two bishop advantage here. So knight f3 I like, and after bishop g7, we castle, and now knight f6 just runs into e5 again. I don't think the black knight wants to come there. And if e6 here, well, we've seen we can just even play e5 straight away. You could go c3, but after this one, you can't go knight g5, so you can't really go c3 now. So this is one of black's ideas. So now that e6 has been played, he might be, taking it as annoying because we don't have a good square for the knight. So that's why I'm now going to play e5. And again, it's the same idea we've seen. This bishop, as soon as e6 is played, doesn't belong that diagonal. So I'm going to go d4 and c3, or c3 and d4, bring the bishop back here where it has better long-term prospects. Example c5, and now d4. I don't quite think is the right way to do this. I prefer when c5 is played to go c3 always, and d4 next. And here, again, this looks like a good version of the French to me. Black doesn't generally put the bishop on this square in the French, and with the bishop coming to g5, you can take advantage of this idea because black has dark squared weaknesses around there. And another thing I would do, like our advanced French lines, this fits in very nicely to that. Rook e1 is a very useful move because black, maybe the only way you can try to break out is f6. So let's go for rook e1, get the bishop either to f4 or here, knight to d2, bishop to c2 eventually, and you can even start pushing your h-pawn like we've also seen in the advanced French. So a little bit of an intro to the Hillbilly there, and after bishop c4, d5, bishop b3. None of these ways that black can decline the gambit I feel are good. Maybe the critical one was e6 immediately. Now, you can experiment other moves, but I like e5, and I'm going for my advanced French setup, which we've got in this course as well, c3 and d4. So if I can get that, I'm very happy, and we can play in a simple manner. And if black takes up the challenge, we get these fascinating gambit lines where we take over the center. We have our bishop coming to c2, our knight generally coming to f1, and we have development advantage. Black is okay, of course, but fun, exciting positions. One more line we'll look at here. Let's say h6 immediately, just to give you a bit more of a taste of the only critical line. Well, c3, of course, and now knight e7. Well, this goes back into the kind of stuff we're looking at. Knight d2, knight f5, and just to demonstrate this idea of bringing a knight to f1, let's say black plays c5. Black must play this move to get some play. Here, we could ignore it, but even now, there's an interesting idea of taking this one and playing bishop e3. And the problem with black opening up position is that we are better development, and this is a new idea with knight takes, and now we have this idea because we got rid of the knight. That's why I've gone bishop e3. And after we get this really peculiar pawn structure, we're threatening that one. And with g6, queen e2 is another line that we've investigated with castling queenside and e4 on the agenda, and full development. I prefer white. So again, there's nothing to worry about in these lines where black doesn't take on e4. We can still get fun positions. We're not even gambiting in a lot of the lines, and we get a lot of action. This shows that black's a little bit scared as well if he doesn't take on e4. So let's move on to those more critical lines next.